them all what I'm made up. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get enough.
Wow. White smoke. And on the second day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty quick, all things considered.
It is. And, you know, in this age of instant everything, there's still something about that tradition, the conclave, delivering this huge moment.
Oh, absolutely. And this time, well, it's genuinely historic. Robert Francis Prevost, an American, now Pope Leo XIV.
A huge turning point. So for this deep dive, we're looking at reports mainly from The Guardian, to sort of cut through the noise.
That's the plan. Give you the key facts, the immediate context, what happened, who he is. Basically get you up to speed without getting lost in the 24/7 news cycle.
Okay, sounds good. Let's get right into it then. So white smoke, day 2, that suggests maybe a relatively smooth consensus among the 133 cardinals?
It does seem that way. Cardinal Prevost got the majority, and then we had that iconic moment, Habemus Papam, we have a pope.
Delivered by Cardinal Mamberti, the French cardinal. And the name, Leo XIV.
Okay.
That choice, it feels significant somehow.
It really does. You immediately think of Pope Leo XIII, right?
Right.
End of the 19th, early 20th century.
Yeah, he was known for tackling social issues, wasn't he? Industrialization, workers' rights, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So choosing Leo now, well, it could signal that this new pope, Leo XIV, wants to focus on similar things today. You know, social justice, global ethics.
And you could almost feel that significance in St. Peter's Square, couldn't you? The reports mentioned over 100,000 people, just pure joy.
Yeah, a massive crowd, just electric.
Okay, so who is he? Robert Francis Prevost, 69 years old, born in Chicago.
Right, and interestingly, his background is quite a mix. Parents with French, Italian, and Spanish roots.
Ah, okay. And he has 2 brothers, Louis Martin and John Joseph. His studies started stateside, St. Louis, Chicago. Theology in Chicago, too.
But what's quite interesting is how early he got into this sort of Vatican system.
Yeah.
Sent to Rome when he was only 27.
To study canon law.
Church law. And he was ordained a priest there in Rome. He's also, notably, the first Augustinian pope.
Augustinian. Okay, what does that signify, generally?
Well, the Augustinians have this long, influential tradition within the church. Big focus on theology, philosophy, St. Augustine, of course.
Right. And then there's this deep connection he has with Peru that goes way back, doesn't it, to 1985?
Yeah, decades. He was involved in Augustinian missions there, first in a place called Chulucanas, then Trujillo.
And that eventually led to him becoming Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru back in 2015.
Exactly. So that's a long time immersed in the church in a very different cultural setting, Latin America.
That experience seems, well, pretty crucial, actually.
Oh, I think so. It gives him this, ground level view of the church in the global south, the challenges, the energy there.
And maybe, as some people are saying, that time outside Europe or North America might help reassure folks who are maybe a bit hesitant about an American pope.
Could well be. It definitely shows a broader perspective. And then, Pope Francis promoted him to Archbishop in 2023, made him a cardinal just last year.
So clearly being positioned, moving up.
Yeah, definitely seen as a significant figure.
And Francis trusted him, right? Gave him some pretty important jobs like that dicastery for bishops.
That's a big one. Overseeing who becomes a bishop around the world, that's real influence.
So who he picks for that job now will tell us a lot, won't it?
Oh, absolutely. It'll be a key indicator of his direction. He's generally seen as a moderate, by the way.
A moderate? Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to maybe bridge some gaps after, Benedict and Francis.
That's likely the thinking, yeah. Though moderate can mean different things. And the church today.
That's complicated. It'll definitely test that label.
No kidding. Okay, so shifting gears a bit, what about the reactions from world leaders? Those started coming in pretty quick.
They did. Always revealing, aren't they?
Yeah. So U.S. President Donald Trump, he put out a message on Truth Social, congratulated him, called it a big honor for the U.S., eager to meet him. Very meaningful moment, I think he said. Right, and that potential meeting could be interesting. There were reports, about past social media comments attributed to Prevost that were, let's say, critical of some in the Trump administration.
Ah, okay. So maybe a little underlying tension there to watch.
Potentially, yeah. Diplomacy is complex.
True. What about elsewhere? Ukraine.
President Zelensky sent a message. He stressed how much Ukraine values the Holy See's stance on international law, hoping for continued support for a just peace.
Understandable. And France? Macron.
Yep, President Macron sent a message too, talked about fraternity, hope for peace. That was on May 8th, which is a significant date in France, marking the end of WWII in Europe.
Interesting timing. And Russia.
Putin.
Putin also sent congratulations, expressed confidence in continuing constructive dialogue based on shared Christian values.
Right. That highlights that careful balancing act the Pope always has to do on the world stage, doesn't it? Especially with ongoing conflicts.
Absolutely. Then you had the European Council President Antonio Costa welcoming him, talking about shared values like unity, compassion, peace. And the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, also looking forward to deepening ties, especially now with an American pontiff.
Plus a whole wave of messages from leaders across Europe: Spain, Poland, Hungary, Portugal, Austria, Czech Republic, the Netherlands.
Yeah, a little local pride shout out from the mayor of Chicago, too, Brandon Johnson.
Right. Celebrating the Chicago connection. It really shows the Pope's unique role, doesn't it? This global figure, moral leader, diplomat, all rolled into one.
Definitely. Okay, so what about his own first words? His first addresses as Pope Leo XIV.
Well, his very first comments were in Italian. He spoke about wanting a message of peace to reach everyone, hearts, families, all people.
A message of peace. Seems central.
Yes. And he paid tribute to Pope Francis, his predecessor, urged everyone to sort of move forward together, united without fear, with God.
A call for unity right off the bat.
Exactly. He thanked the cardinals who elected him, and then he used that quote from St. Augustine.
Oh yeah, saw that. For you, I am a bishop, but with you, I am a Christian.
Powerful line, isn't it? Emphasizes shared identity, service, maybe a touch of humility?
Seems like it. He also gave a specific thanks to the church in Rome and his old diocese back in Peru, Chiclayo.
Right, acknowledging his roots and his new role. Then he led the prayer, the Ave Maria, there in St. Peter's Square, setting the tone, really.
A carefully managed first appearance, sounds like.
Very much so, emphasizing continuity, peace, unity. But, beyond those initial messages, he steps into a role facing some pretty massive challenges.
Yeah, let's talk about those. Church unity seems like a huge one, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Things feel quite polarized within the church right now. You had Benedict, then Francis, quite different approaches, different emphasis.
And that's led to tensions. Some people even talk about, the risk of schism, a formal split.
It's a concern that's been voiced, yeah. Managing those internal differences, trying to foster unity, that's a major task.
And then there's the whole international diplomacy side. Conflicts everywhere, Ukraine, the Middle East, Sudan.
Right. Plus these big global issues, migration, the climate crisis, religious freedom debates, human rights. The Pope often gets drawn into these.
The challenge is making sure religion is a force for good in those debates, not another fault line.
Precisely. And then domestically for the church, there's the shadow of the sexual abuse crisis.
Still ongoing. Pope Francis took steps, but the legacy, the need for accountability, that's not going away.
Not at all. His actions, Pope Leo's actions on that front will be watched incredibly closely. Survivors, the public, they need to see real commitment.
And then there's just governing the church itself, decisions about, the pace of change. What about the role of lay people, of women?
Key questions. And like we said, his first big appointments, especially in the Vatican Curia, will give clues about his approach to governance.
We also mentioned finances earlier. That's still an issue.
Apparently so. Francis pushed for more transparency, which was needed. But the Vatican has apparently been running unsustainable deficits, maybe even worsened during his time. So financial stability, proper oversight. That's on the agenda too.
Wow. It's a lot. And one more big area. Sexuality. Identity.
Yes, that's become a real flashpoint. Pope Francis opened doors, maybe, with a more welcoming tone towards LGBTQ plus people, condemning discrimination, allowing blessings for same-sex couples.
But that caused a huge backlash from traditionalists, didn't it?
A very significant one, yes. So navigating those deeply held, often conflicting views on sexuality and identity, that requires immense care.
Okay, so pulling this all together, the election of Robert Francis Prevost as Pope Leo XIV, first American Pope, historic, no doubt.
Absolutely.
We've touched on, the quick election, his really interesting background in Chicago, but also that deep Peru connection, the global reactions pouring in, and this pretty daunting a list of challenges he inherits.
Right. Hopefully this gives you, the listener, a solid grasp of this major event and sort of the immediate world he's stepping into.
Yeah, that essential framework.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Given everything we've discussed, His background as an American, his deep roots in Peru through missionary work, his Augustinian tradition, and facing all these complex challenges, both inside the church and globally. Where do you think his leadership might actually have the most immediate, the most significant impact? Is there one area where that unique mix of experiences might make the biggest difference right out of the gate? And, why?
Interesting question. How does that blend of American identity, Latin American experience, and theological tradition maybe equip him differently for one challenge or another?
Yeah, something to ponder. How it all intersects with issues like church unity, global diplomacy, or maybe even those internal debates on governance or social issues.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.